All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Cut to the Chase Sports Podcast. We're live. This is actually not a pre-recorded show. We're actually here on YouTube and everything else. I'm your host, Chase Johnson. Alongside me, we got Brady King. Brady, what's going on in Springfield?
Oh, man. Not much. It's really the boring days, just working Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. So don't have a lot of free time this summer, but it's been good. Springfield's been Springfield, really. It's been interesting. It's a lot different than being up in Columbus.
That's definitely a way to put it. I mean, Springfield is one thing, but that's home. That is home. We'll put it that way. But yeah, again, we haven't done a live show in a second. Football's coming up. We're less than roughly 80 days away from college football. We're about 90 days out from the NFL starting. So we're in that summer period where pretty much you got the finals are in game 3 and then baseball's taking full swing. To say the least, it's boring. It is boring.
Yeah.
It really is. And
the weather saves it. That's the only way
that's true.
I couldn't imagine if you had a winter without sports.
Oh God, I mean, it'd be brutal. But
it'd be bad.
Again, I mean, the people in Canada, that's one thing. But again, they have hockey that happens. But off that point, if you guys are watching this video, please like, subscribe, comment. We appreciate the support you guys have been giving us in pretty much every year over the last 4 years. We've had this sort of an episode when it comes to top 10 receivers going into the season and top 10 quarterbacks going into the season. We've done this for a few years now, and it's been a fun one to say the least. And it's interesting because you look at it and stuff changes every year. Players get hurt, new players emerge on the scene. Some players have down years. People move to new teams, whether that be the transfer portal in college, whether it be free agency in the NFL, new head coaches, quarterbacks, all that stuff. So criteria is one thing, but again, we're two people that we go off the eye test as well. It's an accumulation of numbers and the eye test and stuff like that. In which order do you go in it? That's the beauty of an opinion. All right. So putting that out there first, this is our opinion that is heading into the 2025 season based off of what we've seen and what we could expect to happen going into this season and how big of impacts that these receivers can play. So again, you can flame us all you want on stuff and everything else, but guess what? These are our opinions. You guys have opinions that are watching this. You guys can voice your opinions. It's a free country. It's a free world. So you know what?
We actually would love it. Go in the comment section and complain about our takes. Seriously.
Exactly. Complain about it. You can talk to us about it. Anything. Because we want to hear what you guys say and have conversation. Because guess what? The big thing about this entire thing that we don't want people to forget and that, don't get lost up in it. We all love ball, man. We love sports. We love football. That's the big thing. That's the big thing that's connecting. Sports connects everybody. But again, people have different opinions and, sometimes it can get pretty hostile. But we don't need to get as hostile as we think we need to get. But without further ado, Brady, you've got your top 10 college football receivers heading in 2025. Let's hear what you got.
Yeah, so I'm going to give my top 10 college football receivers heading into the year. Like Chase said, it's a combination of eye tests, numbers, and what you think they're going to do. Ultimately, it's pretty much, all that leads into what you think they'll be in 2025. And so without further ado, number 10, I have Nick Anderson, the Oklahoma transfer heading to LSU. I think he'll put up big numbers this year. I think he'll be the wide receiver 1 at LSU. Garrett Nussmeier, veteran quarterback. I think Nick Anderson, he's a tall jump ball type of receiver. He'll put up solid numbers with Nussmeier. At 9, I have Mekhi Lemon at USC. High recruit in the 2023 class. Finally, it's his money year. If he can put up good numbers and he wants to leave to the draft, I think he definitely has that ability. Obviously, depending on how much NIL he gets to come back and all that with guys that aren't surefire first rounders, that'll matter. But I think he's definitely he's a 3 and done type of player. Very explosive. He's the best receiver on USC the past couple of last year, without a doubt, over Zach Branch, in my opinion. Just a much better natural route runner, very explosive. At 8, I have Trevor Pena, Syracuse transfer heading to Penn State this year. He is a really good player. Every time I watch them, because I watched him a little bit to watch Kyle McCord, he caught my eye because he doesn't create a ton of separation, but he has really good hands, really good ball tracking. Had over almost 1,000 yards last year, and he demanded too much money from Syracuse was the reason he left. But that's huge for Penn State. I mean, that could have been. I'm not saying I think that could have been a national championship winning addition because that's the only position they needed. At 7, I have Ryan Wingo of Texas. He's probably so far out who I said he's the most unproven. However, I think he's the most talented by a decent amount, which is why the eye test matters. And what I saw from him when he played last year, former 5-star, high recruit, extremely explosive, long legs. He can take it the distance from he can take a hitch to the distance. I think he's a monster, and he'll be the wide receiver 1 at Texas this year. At 6, I have a guy that is probably out for the season, unfortunately. I'm still putting him on here because he might play. He's still, a college football player, Evan Stewart. I think there's a mix of people, some that underrate him, some that overrate him. There's not a lot right in between. I was really high on him coming into his sophomore year of college, but then he didn't get any better really from his freshman year. And he just never – it's like the eye test is there, but the numbers never are. And never there for a full season. So it's like he's doing something wrong. I just don't think he's very complete. He's very explosive. I don't see hardly anything from him in the short to intermediate game. He's got a lot of deep balls and all that. He's fast. He can run the double move. As we know as Ohio State fans, he had a best game of his career against us solely off of deep balls. And I think that puts him right around the 6th spot on this list. And I think that's I think these top 5 are these top 5 have a gap between 5 and 6 in terms of not like a huge gap, but a gap. There was no debate here. At 5, I have a guy that most people actually do put a little bit higher, Carnell Tate. I think he's a really good player. Loved what I saw from him last season as the wide receiver 3 at Ohio State, put up 700 some yards, very consistent, extremely fluid, smooth, maybe the smoothest receiver in the country in terms of just out in and out of breaks, and it makes it look easy. He's 6'3", he's tall, he has great hands. He's pretty fast. He does everything. He's a very consistent player. He's not insanely explosive, but he's a really good route runner. He's got good, he can do it all. And it's between – so him and this next guy I was back and forth on because him and this next guy are who I would have as wide receiver. It's the debate between which one of these guys I'd have as wide receiver 1 in the 2026 draft. I went with Jordan Tyson at 4 because, in my opinion, 1, he had better numbers last year. And I think he's a little bit more explosive down the field. And I gave him the edge. Now, I've actually underrated Ohio State receivers a little bit in the past on these pre-year lists because a lot of the time they haven't proven it yet. I remember I had Marvin Harrison Jr. at 8 going into his sophomore year, and I didn't have Jeremiah Smith that high last year because you don't really know. So that's one of it could be wrong, but and then at 3, I have Cam Coleman. Now, I think he's a lot better than his numbers showed. He had a good freshman season. There's a lot of people talking high on him right now, and I agree. He's 6'5", crazy hands, explosive, monster. I mean, I'm talking about a future possible top 5 pick level good. And a lot of people would say there's a debate between him and number 2 these days. I've seen it a lot. Personally, there wasn't really a debate for me because one of them is just you've seen it more, and I went with Ryan Williams at 2, right over Cam Coleman. I do think he's more proven. I think he's very shifty. He's got good ball skills, good route running. I mean, he's pretty complete. Not the biggest frame, but he can do a lot with the ball in his hands. And
it looks like we might have lost Brady briefly.
Hold up. There we go.
Okay, there we go.
Okay. All right. But yeah, I think Ryan will have a big year. Really good player. But number 1 was it was easy. I mean, there's Jeremiah Smith is by far the best receiver in college football. There was a 1 week debate, I would say, between him and Ryan. They talk about both of them, which they are both really good. That was when Ryan had that big game against Georgia. He was a stud, but this guy, I mean, he was the best receiver in college football last year. With the eye test, and during the regular season, we didn't force feed him the ball because we were trying not to get people injured. We ran the ball a lot. We didn't snap the ball quick. But then in the playoffs, once we decided that it's full urgency after we realized the game plan was wrong against Michigan, every time you take a shot to him downfield, he was just coming down with it. He was getting open. I mean, he can do whatever. He's the best receiver I've ever seen at Ohio State, just pure like skill-wise. He's going to go down as – I mean, he's got the path there for him to be the best college receiver ever is easily there. I mean, he could easily win the next 2 Biletnikovs, win a Heisman, win maybe another Natty. I mean, he's going to have a monster year, and if they decide – that they're going to force feed him, then you can expect. I would predict he has about 1,800 yards this year receiving, if they want him to. I think you're muted, Chase.
And I am muted. So again, that's the thing with the live shows. You've got to figure things out. But no, I think with that, I mean, now you have more games being played. Ohio State this past year, they didn't play in the Big Ten championship, but then they had to play 4 games to get to the points. 16 game season, 1,800 yards is very capable for a guy like Jeremiah Smith. And I like the list, because you're looking at, Smith at 1, Ryan Williams, explosive as ever at 2. There's obviously some guys on this list that really haven't caught the national attention as much as I would say yourself and other guys that are really deeply, deeply versed in the college football realm and stuff. But these guys will be up there on the list. And another guy that you mentioned, Jordan Tyson, I got a chance to call one of his games this year when they played against Cincinnati. And this was a game where Jeff Sims was the quarterback and Sam Levitt was out with an injury, but we didn't get to see the entire thing of Jordan Tyson. But man, he was a very spectacular receiver, jump ball receiver, long and lengthy and stuff, and had some speed with him. So I really enjoyed this list. And then, talking about, Carnell Tate. I know Tim's in here talking about the OSU bias. And,
actually, Tim, I'm going to go ahead and give an honorable mention just for you and put Brandon Ennis as my honorable mention, just for you.
And it's all love with Tim. But man, it's but again, it's it does spark up a question I'm going to ask in just a second. But you got Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate in your top 5, and just to put it up there. So then you got the whole list right here. So you got Smith, Ryan Williams, Cam Coleman, Jordan Tyson, Carnell Tate, the top 5, Evan Stewart, who might be out for the season with an injury at 6. And then you've got Ryan Wingo, Trevor Pena, Mekhi Lemon, and Nick Anderson rounding out 7 through 10. So, yeah, I mean, in regards, it's college football is always an interesting one because of the level of play, the amount of teams there are. There could be some freshmen that step up out of nowhere, some transfers that step up out of nowhere that really put themselves on the scene and everything. So it's going to be interesting to see how many of these guys can really stay on that level, who kind of falls, who stays up, what quarterbacks get hurt. So it's going to be fun. But and
also the amount of movement of people leaving from the year before. Like if this was, I mean, literally 2 of those. I would say like 3 of those guys, maybe 4, would be on like the best receivers by the end of last year because of people leaving. I would say Smith, Williams, Tate, and Jordan Tyson would be the 4 that have an argument for the top 10 from last year.
Yeah. I mean, that and that's the thing. I mean, now you got, if there's, Tate replaces the production that Emeka Egbuka had at Ohio State, and then who replaces, Brandon Ennis replaces the production of Tate, and whoever does, like, it's just other stuff like that. And who's the quarterback at Ohio State? So there's so much that plays into it, but it's going to be fun to see how it goes. But to kind of pivot still in the college football realm of things.
Yeah.
Over the last 10 years, let's go back to 2015. So 10 seasons. Yep. If you had to name the top 3 wide receiver schools, and you can go by quantity, quality, however, who would the 3 schools be?
Yeah, so I think the 3 for me is actually fairly easy. And the third school is not going to be who people think. People think I'm going to say Bama is 3. They're not my 3. I think USC is 3. Drake London, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Michael Pittman Jr. I think those 3 beat what Bama has done with Amari Cooper, Devonta Smith. I guess it's if you add in Julio, it makes it hard because I guess he was playing during that time. So I'm still going to go with.
You're talking about 2015 though, so it's like, are you talking about
college? Oh, okay, yeah, no, we're good.
Well, that's the thing when you take the criteria, it's like guys in college or how they turned out in the NFL and stuff like that. So again, it's
I was thinking since he didn't come out to college after 20, we're thinking of since people that have came out since 2015.
Yes,
right? Since 2015. Okay. Oh, then I'm sticking with my USC take at 3. Yep. Bama was the honorable mention, and then 1 and 2, LSU, Ohio State could go either way. Since 2015, it would be easier for me to say LSU if we did like since 2019. I'm going to go Ohio State if we're going since 2015. I think the quantity is quite a bit better and the quality is still extremely high, although I do believe LSU has the 2 best receivers in the league. You look at Terry McLaurin, you look at Jackson Smith and Jigba, Michael Thomas, even like a Curtis Samuel, a Noah Brown, a Chris Olave, Garrett Wilson, Marvin Harrison Jr., Emeka Ibuka. Yeah. Now in college, you have Jeremiah Smith. Like I think that beats what LSU's done, although very impressive because you also have Brian Thomas, Malik Neighbors, the young guns, and but other than that, they just don't have they don't have as deep as an arsenal. But those are the top 2. It's not close. I mean, USC, a really good 3 with those 3 guys, but LSU has 4 guys of note in that time span. And the 4 are better than the USC 3 easily. And then Ohio State just has the most by a good amount in terms of like guys that have come out and been consistent starters in the NFL. And then, other guys that have been superstars. And did I say Michael Thomas?
You did say Michael Thomas.
Yeah, Michael Thomas. I mean, had the record for catches at one point, was one of the best receivers in the NFL. Terry McLaurin right now, JSN, all those guys. So, I think it's a good debate, but I think those are the top 3 right there, and Bama would be at the 4. Jerry Jeudy starting to play better is definitely helping them inch closer, but I think with Drake London coming onto the scene this year and Amon-Ra, having a couple of really good seasons in a row, I think that's my 3.
Yeah, I would agree with that, and people do forget about Michael Thomas. I know it's obviously, since he kind of did fall off the map over the last 3 or 4 years, injuries being a big thing, and then some other stuff that's happened off the field. But I mean, at one point, it was, I don't want to say like it was an undeniable thing that Michael Thomas was the best receiver in football, but he had the most production of anybody in the National Football League, talking about breaking the catches record and having over 1,600 yards and everything else. And he was on one of the best teams in the National Football League consistently over that 3 or 4 year time period. So, Michael Thomas was, that's a big time name that you can't forget about.
No, that's a Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson level player for, that level time, like that certain time period. He was like that. He was them before them, obviously. Not saying he's the same play style, but how they're considered the best receivers in the NFL now. He was considered to be. He was definitely top 3. It was like him and Julio and D-Hop for a little bit was like the debate. He's a freak. He's 6'3", long arms, crazy good hands, great route runner. He's a stud, and he definitely can't be forgotten.
Yeah, and then you mentioned the LSU thing, and it's like, it just depends on really how you make your list of quality versus quantity and stuff. And it's like, obviously, Jefferson, Chase, the way that they played in college, won a natty, and then obviously they're 2 of the best receivers in the National Football League right now. And then, Brian Thomas Jr., Malik Neighbors, they didn't win a natty or anything like that, but they played with the Heisman quarterback as well, and Jane Daniels. And it's like, I'd rather take the depth when it comes to wide receiver university. I'd rather take the depth and the quantity in that regard in that 10-year time period, because, it's production. It's the consistency of that. When LSU has had those stars, they've obviously turned out to be stars in the National Football League, but and there's been really about 4 or 5 in that time frame. But Ohio State, it's been consistently those guys have been, producing and everything else. And maybe those guys in the NFL haven't been in necessarily the greatest positions when it comes to quarterback. But when they finally get a chance, i.e. Terry McLaurin last year, he's second in the National Football League in touchdowns with 13. They go to the NFC Championship. No, he's obviously holding out of a contract right now, but rightfully so. He deserves all the money in the world that he's fighting for. So
sure,
it's that. I think receiver universities should be debated on quantity over quality in most scenarios, but I agree with that top 3 list.
And it's like it also I'm also including Jeremiah Smith in this since he's an Ohio State current receiver. And when you just look at Jeremiah Smith and you add that to the list and just kind of project, that's what that makes it to me a no-brainer, because he like you said, just Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase are no doubt top 3 receivers in the NFL. I think they're top 2. A lot of people think they're top 2, and they're the best on the list out of the guys that are in the NFL right now. But I think Jeremiah Smith will be that level of player someday.
Yeah, I agree. And it's crazy. He still has 2 years left.
He might be that level of player 2 years from now.
Yeah, probably. Some guys just walk out of college and they're like, oh, they're that guy. Not really a whole lot, but you can just kind of tell. Again, it goes back to watching what's going on instead of just looking at the numbers and everything else.
I don't think he's going to break the rookie record or anything, because I have a feeling he's going to not have a very good quarterback, because that also happens to these Ohio State guys.
Yeah, it does.
Chris Olave might be the top case of that. Jesus.
Yeah, we'll see how Chris Olave is. Yeah, I know, man. It's tough, especially right now in New Orleans. But we'll pivot to the National Football League. It's good talking college, and we'll have more college coverage as the summer goes on. It's going to be fun. So in the National Football League, this is always an interesting one to rank because of you have new guys coming onto the scene. It's always a new quarterback's coming in, or just wait till this guy gets a chance in year 2, or just new head coach, coordinator, and everything like that. So there's so much that goes into it, but I'm going to go on ahead, and I broke it down into 2 different tiers, but then I have a top 10 list of these receivers. It's production from last year and the potential production of this year and how I view them going forward. All right. So there might be some names on this list where you're like, oh, he didn't have a good year last year, but I'm like, dude, just go back and watch the tape. He's in a different situation right now. This could be interesting.
Situation when it comes to receivers is definitely a big thing.
It's huge. It's all situational, but again, it's a quarterback, you're supposed to be the guy, and it's you kind of make that situation, but there's only so much you can do if you don't have the necessary pieces to win. So how I broke it down, the young guys, the guys that are going into year 2, I would love to put some of these guys in the top 10, but I'm just not going to, because there are some guys that are still playing very well football up top that have been in the league for a longer time. It's not all the time where some of these guys were just, they'll be able to just implement themselves in that top 10 list, because it really is a changing of the guard besides the top 3 or 4 receivers in the league, I'd say. So I have Brian Thomas Jr., Malik Neighbors, Marvin Harrison Jr., and Ladd McConkey. No particular order. Those are all guys that were fantastic receivers last year. Ladd McConkey had over 1,000 yards, and he was pretty much the number 1 receiver for the Chargers. And I think he's going to have another big season with Justin Herbert and the Jim Harbaugh offense. Marvin Harrison Jr., he looks yoked. All right. He was already strong and everything else, but this guy looks like an absolute tank playing receiver. A full season of Kyler Murray, which I think people will finally remember who Kyler Murray is nowadays. Okay. Kyler Murray is still very talented. And if he finds Marvin Harrison Jr., oh boy, it's going to be dangerous. And then the Giants, with Malik Neighbors. Malik Neighbors, even with the situation that he was in, he still made plays for the Giants, especially later on in the season. He's a spectacular receiver, and I see Obviously, I know like some hints of Jamar Chase, like the LSU connection, all that other stuff. But I do see some hints of Jamar Chase in him a little bit. But a little bit of a bigger receiver and all. But I like him. And I'll tell you this: I really think Brian Thomas Jr. can end up being in the top 10 next year. Okay, this guy he had the third most receiving yards in the National Football League this past year on the Jags. Like these guys, he had Mac Jones throwing him the football. Yeah. Brian Thomas Jr. was electric this season. He's a big time guy with the. It's more of a taller but wiry frame, and he can move pretty good. But I think the two guys out of that list that you really want to watch out for are Brian Thomas Jr. and Marvin Harrison Jr. That could really assert themselves going forward into the top 10 of these lists. My honorable mention, all right, I had Puka Nacua up there, and Puka missed games last year. He still had 990 yards receiving. Yep. Fantastic receiver out of BYU. I enjoy watching Puka Nacua play football. I don't even think he's the best receiver on his team. I'll get to that in a second. Mike Evans, model of consistency. Over the course of the last 11 seasons, 1,000 yards, Super Bowl champion. The Bucs have won the last 4 NFC South Division titles, and he's been a huge part of it. I don't want to say it's hard to get 1,000 yards every single year, but if you stay healthy and you're the number one receiver, you should be getting 1,000 yards. But Mike Evans is the model of consistency, and he hasn't been hurt, and you just got to appreciate that. Drake London's really come onto the scene, guys. I think now with Michael Penix Jr. as the quarterback, especially how the Falcons are going to play, and Michael Penix Jr. can let the ball rip. I mean, they're gonna let this ball fly a lot this year, and they're gonna need Drake London over the middle and on the deep shot. And I really feel like they're going to get him involved even more. I know Kirk Cousins is a pocket passer and everything else, but they obviously have moved on from him in that regard. And it's Penix's team, and he's going to be looking for Drake London a lot. And another guy in DJ Moore. I think now DJ Moore is really the number one receiver. Keenan Allen left. Roma Dunze, I mean, he had an all right rookie season, but we'll see how that plays out. DJ Moore is still a very talented receiver in this league. And I think, especially in the Ben Johnson offense, I'm excited to see how they can use him in many different ways, whether it be over the middle, whether it be deep, whether it be toward the boundary. Going to be fun. Off that, we're on the top 10. All right. So, number 10, I've got Garrett Wilson. All right. I love watching Garrett Wilson play football. You've probably heard it on this show before. Matt really loves Garrett Wilson. You love Garrett Wilson. Oh, yeah. I think he's a fantastic talent, okay? He's really had to go through a lot when it comes to quarterbacks, guys like Joe Flacco throwing the football, Zach Wilson, Tim Boyle, Aaron Rodgers. You can just name any quarterback, and the Tyrod Taylor. Like, he has been through a bunch of quarterbacks, and that goes back to the Ohio State thing. It hadn't really played out the best for some of these receivers, but Garrett Wilson has really made it work regardless. He's had back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons. He's been consistent. He is shifty, elusive, can play the jump ball. He's not the biggest receiver in the world, but he plays bigger than his actual size. And with Justin Fields back there now, that's a connection that is going to be scary. We've seen it before in college, and most people really don't want to see it. Say what you want about the Jets, but this duo can be really fun this year, especially on the run when the play breaks down and Justin Fields is keeping his eyes downfield looking for number 5.
Oh, yeah.
Number 9, he played on his team last year for a little bit of it. I still think Davante Adams is really good. All right. People forget about it. The whole Raiders situation that he had when he was on wide receiver that was on Netflix, and he was being a diva and everything. And it was kind of funny to watch. But Davante Adams, you're telling me that if you're a corner that you want to line up with Davante Adams, do you really trust, if you're a fan of all of these teams, of any of these teams in the league, do you really trust your corner to go one-on-one against Davante Adams consistently throughout a game? I still don't. I mean, I'm a Bengals fan, but I still don't. Davante Adams can work out of the slot, work on the outside. I think his route running is one of the best in the National Football League. He was consistently, over a time period, I believe, the best receiver in football for nearly 3 or 4 years. Yeah. And obviously had Aaron Rodgers for a lot of those, but now he's got Matthew Stafford, a gunslinger, and he's in a very efficient and electric offense that Sean McVay runs, and he's got Puka Nacua on the other side. This is going to be very fun to see, and they could really try to get some more years out of Devontae Adams, who's now 32 years old, and this could save him if he plays in the slot and just moving him around a little bit and keep him fresh if the Rams are able to make the playoffs. Now, number 8, Nico Collins. I tweeted about this before, and I said, okay, when I make a receivers list, Nico Collins is on this list. He's truly one of the big guy receivers in this league. There are not a whole lot of those that are that consistent and that good. Nico Collins got hurt last year and was out for a little bit, but it was undeniable to see how big of an impact that he had for CJ Stroud when he was on the field. CJ Stroud had a lot of guys go down last year. Tank Dell went down, and he was out for the season, unfortunately, toward the later part. And then Stephon Diggs tore an ACL. But when Nico Collins was out there, he was a stabilizer. He was a consistent threat. He would always run over the middle. He could beat you deep. He could beat you on the jump ball. He could run a lot of routes in the book. He's faster than what most people think. You don't want to see that 6'4", 6'5" frame coming at you on a comeback route or going deep. Again, it's almost a nightmare for corners to have to guard that. You don't see many big receivers like that are that consistent in today's NFL. 10 years ago, you did. 10 years later, you really don't now. So Nico Collins, I think, is going to keep getting better and better. Number 7, Terry McLaurin. Again, he just needed that break. For a second, I thought it was Sam Howell, but now I was like, oh, no, I'm just kidding. Now I got duped. Now you got Jaden Daniels back there, and Jaden Daniels is great. Again, when you look at these receivers lists, it's like, okay, you kind of have to have a good quarterback to be able to get those numbers. That's very true. But, man, with Terry McLaurin, he was second in the league in touchdowns last year with 13 touchdown receptions. He was always making big play after big play, whether it be late in the game, overtime, to widen the gap in a game. It was always a big play from Scary Terry. And it's going to be fun to see how that goes into year 2. Now Deebo Samuel's in the offense, and now they can use him around as a chess piece, and that opens things up even more for Terry McLaurin. Let's go to number 6, Amon-Ra St. Brown. I truly think he's the best slot receiver in the National Football League. The way that he's able to come out of his breaks, the physicality that he plays with. I love the trash talk, edge, tenacity, all the stuff that he brings to the table. He is fantastic. And Amon-Ra is just, you can use him again, even in the run game on some, on some sweeps and anything else. Like, he is just fun to watch, a hard-nosed receiver that is Jared Goff's security blanket. And Amon-Ra, again, looking for another huge season. We go to the top 5. I've got CeeDee Lamb at 5. CeeDee Lamb is fantastic. And CeeDee Lamb's been trying to crack this top 5 list for many people over the last couple of years. And what I saw him able to do last year when Cooper Rush was his main quarterback throughout the course of the season, he did a great job. And now with Dak Prescott in the fold, George Pickens moving over on the other side as the 2, I truly think this could unlock CeeDee Lamb even more. The Cowboys' identity is going to have to be offense this year. It really is. Because, again, defensively, I don't know what they are. Micah Parsons as a pass rusher, cool. But we go to the side of CeeDee Lamb, 1v1. He's shifty. He's able to run routes really crisp. He can jump all over some people. He's got really strong hands, to say. And I think that CeeDee Lamb is, I think he's the most vital piece of the Cowboys. I honestly think he's even more vital than Micah Parsons.
I think he's the best player on the team.
I think, I agree. I again, it's kind of a crazy thing to say, but it's like, when Dallas has needed Micah Parsons or the Cowboys defense or the pass rush the most, they haven't stepped up. They can consistently count on CeeDee Lamb to win his route. They just need to have a quarterback get him the ball. If Dak Prescott stays healthy, that's going to happen, and that's why they went 12-5 3 straight seasons, because their offense was flowing and CeeDee Lamb was making plays. Number 4, people forget about Tyreek Hill, which is a crazy thing to say. Tua Tagovailoa was hurt most of the season. There was a lot of dysfunction for Miami. Jalen Waddle did a little bit more than what people expected. But I'll tell you this, man. When Tyreek Hill has a football in his hands, he's still one of the most explosive receivers in the National Football League. Please do not get recency bias attached to it. I don't care that he has 10 kids with 10 different women. That's his side business over there. All right. You can watch any court show you want, try to figure out how that stuff plays. But man, I tell you, when Tyreek Hill gets the ball in his hands, whether it be a screen, whether it be something over the middle, whether it be a deep ball, whether it be a little out route or a handoff or a reverse, you don't want to see the cheetah coming at you like that. You don't. He is, again, you saw him in Kansas City. He was used more in the deep ball and then, obviously in the special teams game and stuff. But the creativity that Mike McDaniel has in his offense and the timing base that it is, one guy can really disrupt timing for the defense, and that's Tyreek Hill. And what I mean disrupt timing for the defense is this. Obviously, routes and development of plays are one big thing. Timing is huge on offense, Brady. You played quarterback. You know what that is. You got to be in rhythm. But I'll tell you this, if a play breaks down and you let the fastest guy in the National Football League get out in the open and he catches the football, you can almost kiss him goodbye. It's over. It's over. So I'd say Tyreek Hill still at 4 because I think if the Miami Dolphins are able to keep Tua Tagovailoa healthy, keep the offense flowing, and they can have the run game, in a strong place as well, Tyreek Hill can get back to where he used to be toward the top of the list on the receiver list. And now A.J. Brown at 3. He's also a bigger receiver. It's hard to describe A.J. Brown's game, but he'll beat you short. He'll beat you intermediate. He's not the fastest guy in the world, but he'll still beat you deep. He's crafty, very technical on his routes, aggressive receiver. I loved watching him with the Titans, and now it just gave Jalen Hurts an even better bag when it comes to, becoming a passer. They won the Super Bowl last year. A.J. Brown is... it's hard to describe or make a comparison of what this guy is like, but he's just a gamer. He's a baller. When he gets the ball in his hands, he'll make work happen. But it's also winning before the ball is in his hands. Talking about the routes, again, the physicality. He's able to win before he breaks out of his route. And then the easy work comes after that when he catches the football. So I think A.J. Brown is a really good example of that. Now, a lot of us would agree that the two LSU receivers in Jamar and Justin Jefferson are 1 and 2. Honestly, when people make their list, I really don't care which way they put it. I'm good either way. But in my list, I got Justin Jefferson at 2, and I think Justin Jefferson played just unbelievable last year, considering the fact that Sam Darnold was his quarterback, and Sam Darnold had a really good season. It got him a contract in Seattle. And I think that Justin Jefferson is going to make J.J. McCarthy a better quarterback. And again, that's a conversation for when we get closer to the season. But the way Justin Jefferson runs his routes, the explosiveness, the way that they move him around in the slot, I still don't know how he gets single, one-on-one coverage in that regard. It's wild. But Justin Jefferson, I mean, it's hard to describe because he's just that good. He's got every facet of his game that you need. So I got Justin Jefferson at 2. And it's hard to take anything away from the guy that won the Triple Crown this past year. Jamar Chase at 1. He wears number 1 on his jersey, and I said a couple years back that there's going to be a time frame where this guy is going to be the best receiver in football, and I think it's now. And I think it starts now, and I think that he could have a couple years or a few years under his belt where he could try to make a stretch that he is the undeniable number 1 receiver, even with a guy like T. Higgins that's going to be his running mate for the next 4 years at least. When I watch Jamar Chase, it's like a running back that's out there playing wide receiver. He's physical. He's got a low center of gravity, the physicality out of his break, the physicality when he's trying to catch the ball, the jump ball ability, the breakaway speed, the ability to, make guys miss over the middle. It's crisp route running. The timing that he has with Joe is awesome. It's tough to say. When Jamar Chase catches the football, the first guy is normally not going to tackle him. It's not going to happen. And that's one of my favorite things about Jamar Chase is that he is relentless with the football in his hands. He's always making a play, and those yards after catch and whatever the scenario is, he's just got that chosen factor to him. And that's my list of receivers right there in the top 10 and all the honorable mentions and stuff. That was a lot of rambling right now. I'll give Brady a chance to think about what he saw here. I'll put the list up.
Yeah. So honestly, the first thing that catches my eye, and I agree with it, is Tyreek Hill being on this list. I think most people would not put him in the top 10 right now because of what just happened. And I disagree with that because you have to look at situation. I mean, the offense, the way they're using him. I mean, he didn't just fall off a cliff like all of a sudden, like in terms of like his skill level. He still has the ability to be one of the best receivers in the league. So I like that he's on that list. I thought it was good to see Terry McLaurin, finally beat the quarterback allegations. Well, the first opportunity he has to, make the state. Everyone always say, well, what if he gets a quarterback? And it happened, and boom, everything was true that people said. And I think 7 was a good spot for him. It was interesting to see the Puka and Devontae Adams placement because I think a lot of people would have Puka ahead of Devontae at this point. But I could very well see Devontae Adams being the best receiver on the team. There's probably no quarterback in the history of the NFL that has been more receiver-friendly than Matt Stafford. There probably isn't. I mean,
that's never talked about. It really isn't talked about that much.
You have to think about Megatron and Cooper Kupp's numbers at their top end. It's insane. Like he was the quarterback for both of those dudes, and and think about it. Cooper Kupp had Jared Goff before and did not put up the numbers he had. And Jared Goff's a pretty receiver-friendly quarterback in my eyes. Like, you got some guys like. There's quarterbacks that are like better than other quarterbacks, but you might want to play like receivers might want to play with a different quarterback more, like because of that. And I think that's what I think Matt Stafford is maybe a gold standard for what quarterback do you want to play with as a receiver if you want to put up numbers. So Devontae Adams could have like 1,700 yards for all I know this year, and I wouldn't be that shocked. And same with Puka, either one of them. And then, I mean the young guys, like you said, they're gonna have to. I'm sure they'll take a leap this year, and possibly you could see those 3 guys. Even Ladd could get on this list. Really had a huge year last year, and he's a lot faster than people think. He ran like a 4.39, and he separates. So I think it was a good list. I would also think I would put Jamar Chase at 1 because right now he had the better season last year, and you gotta. I think that's a good enough reason to slide him ahead of Justin Jefferson because, at the moment he just looks a little bit better. I mean, it's close. I think it's Justin Jefferson's probably better before the catch. Jamar Chase is better after the catch, and I think he's better after the catch by a larger margin than Justin is before the catch. So that's kind of what makes that determination, and also obviously the numbers and. Bengals fans should want him to have those numbers this year because that probably means they were in similar situations, having to get in shootouts and all that. That was he had the blessed opportunity to put up those numbers partially because of that, but he also did do it. And that's the whole. I mean, he had a huge year, and I'd put him at 1, and then CD, AJ Brown, those guys are really good right there. Amon-Ra is a really good player. And then, I mean, I think that's about it. I thought it was pretty similar to what my list would have been. I would have had guys in similar spots. I actually think I would move Nico Collins up a little bit. I think I'd put him at like 6. I think I'd put him above Amon-Ra St. Brown. I think I'd have him right behind like a CD type of player. And I also think I'd put I would still have Terry at 7 because I would move him ahead of Amon-Ra and then Amon-Ra right behind those 2. But again, we're splitting hairs here. I mean, they're right there in that same order. I think it was a really good list, and I think that you could get to the end of the year, and obviously those probably won't end up being the 10 best receivers in the league because you never know who's going to come on. Like maybe Rashee Rice will have 1,600 yards, and
exactly
can't really surprise. Somebody will burst onto the scene. It might even be like. It might even be Matthew Golden. Who knows?
Yeah,
it could be anybody random like that.
You never know. That's the beauty of it. But and we'll close in this regard. So it's always interesting with these lists because there are some teams that have better 2s than most teams 1s, and I think we can kind of go down the list. And I'm looking at the standings right now for each of these teams. Miami's got a guy in Jalen Waddle who's a very good 2. All right. And then we look down the list. Cincinnati's got T. Higgins, who's a really good 2. Then we keep going down the list. You could also throw out, obviously, Devonta Smith as a very good 2 in the National Football League. Chris Godwin's a really good 2. Sirens are going behind.
Cooper Kupp even is a
Cooper Kupp, yeah, and then Puka or whoever, Devonta. Again, it's an interesting one. I mean, it's tough to say like Deebo Samuel now. I mean, and those guys being in different situations it's going to play a huge factor. So it's like it's interesting to see how many of these guys would actually be receiver 1 on a certain amount of teams. And I think me, you, and Matt had this conversation, I believe it was last year. We were talking about how many teams would T. Higgins be a number 1 receiver on. I think we came to the conclusion where it'd be a little bit over half of the National Football League, around 16 to 17 teams. And I would say the same for Devonta Smith. I think he'd be the number 1 for half. I'd say Jalen Waddle maybe 14 of the teams, 13 or 14, and maybe a little bit less than the guys like T and Devonta Smith. I think those guys have crazy catch radius, and they're also pretty fast in their own right, and they have like I don't want to say more skill than Jalen Waddle, but Jalen Waddle has a more expansive and explosive game, but that contested catch ability that the 2 guys that Devonta Smith and T. Higgins have, especially paired with guys like Jamar Chase for the Bengals and A.J. Brown for the Eagles, it just adds another dimension for their offense where it is very well highlighted when you're looking at Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. They're 2 of pretty much the similar players, just Jalen Waddle's not as explosive as Tyreek Hill. No one's as explosive as Tyreek Hill. So it's all kind of a systematic approach right there. And then again, it's like you have a new duo now and talking about the Rams with Puka Nacua and Devontae Adams. Like you don't know who's going to be the number 1 guy out of that. You have no clue. And then Terry McLaurin is going to be the number 1 in Washington, but Deebo Samuel might be revitalized. And then Cooper Kupp in Seattle, but JSN had 1,000 yards this past season. Who's going to be playing more on the slot? Who's going to play more on the outside? It's questions. You got 3 guys that have done it with their teams for a while, and they're going to be doing it for more years. And then you got 3 guys that aren't, they're on new teams now. So now you're going to have to figure that out, and then we'll have more answers after this season or in the course of the season. So this is always a fun one to do. And again, that's where you find people that have their differing opinions and their criteria and all that stuff. That's what makes opinions fun. Everyone has a different sort of lists and criteria about it, but it's always fun to do that. It always means that football is right around the corner when we make lists like this. Brady, do you have anything before we get on out of here that you want to say?
I think that's about it, really. I think we've covered it. I think we covered receivers a lot, very expansively in this episode. I think we did a good job. We pretty much hit everything, I thought. And I'm sure we'll do this with the quarterbacks at some point. Mm-hmm. That'll be interesting. I'm sure that could stir some feathers for sure. Yeah, on both levels. But yeah, no, I think we hit receivers well.
Yeah, QB is going to be fun because obviously that one in itself is something. I think that's more of a tiers list than actually ranking guys, and then obviously to name those tiers. It's just a fun thing for us to do the pass over time and really get to think or overthink on some things. But with that being said, that's Brady King, and I'm Chase Johnson. We appreciate you guys tuning in. If you guys are watching at this point, please like, subscribe, comment, share this video. Always appreciate the support. We'll see you guys next time here on the Cut to the Chase Sports Podcast. Have a good night.